Today we're going to be talking about a story involving Zoe Quinn.
Why is it that you always do episodes on the social justice movement? Why do you never do episodes on the alt-right? Could it be that you, a skeptic on YouTube, are part of the alt-right community? Or maybe, just maybe, you warm people up to alt-right ideologies.
Thank you, Bro-Gressive. Apologies to Brad Jones. She was working in a bridal shop in fucking Queens when her boyfriend fucked her up in one of those crushing scenes. Only 8 views so far, but it's the Omega Geek. Come on, guys. Hey everyone, Irishman Rants here, and I don't really care about E3. I haven't cared about it since 2012, back when I was actually playing video games. But unfortunately today, I have to start caring about E3 for the first time in maybe 4 years. Or 5, because I can math good. You see, if there's one thing that's going to be able to get me to pay attention to E3, it's going to be some online Twitter politics getting in the way of a good presentation. And that's what's happening today with Tim Soret. You see, Tim Soret, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce his name, I think he's French. He and his brother made a game called The Last Night, which just premiered its trailer at E3. The initial reaction is that the game looks awesome. Like, just awesome. Apparently it has an interesting story and great visuals. Now, the only problem is that people decide to look into his Twitter feed in the past, from maybe like a couple years ago, and soon enough, he started to experience a downfall. Most of that was because he had to suffer the wrath of Zoe Tiberius Quinn, also known as Unburnt Witch, or as Notch calls her, cunt.
Most of my interest lies in what I'm very curious is going to happen in reaction to in the next few years are the people that are sort of in the alt-right.
Sicker than your average nigger killer, twist niggers, heads off niggers, fucking stink niggers and gators.
You see, apparently back in 2014, when Gamergate was relevant and just starting to develop, Tim Soret decided to voice his support for Gamergate. He also described himself as anti-feminist, which, I'm a feminist myself, but I don't really care if he's anti-feminist or not. He also says that he doesn't like Anis Sarkeesian, which I agree with him on that. I think she twists the truth a lot and is mostly just a Puritan who doesn't really care about video games, but only just cares about violence and everything. I think the only tweet I ever had a problem with was this tweet about Bill Nye, which is, it's biased. Injecting identity politics under this cover of science, it's not going to end well. Which, I don't know. I haven't watched the new Bill Nye show. I've heard a lot of people either love or hate his view on gender identity, but all I know about that episode is that Ian Malchion lied about it. So, when his allegiance to Gamergate was discovered, Zoe Tiberius Quinn got up all in his grill. And she has some tweets that are pretty questionable, but somewhat understandable. Just FYI, I am 100% for never letting it go when a developer participated in Gamergate, unless someone actually made amends, but no one has. That's a bit of a weird statement. You can either join me, or become the villain. You either die a hero, or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Or just a person who wants ethics in gaming journalism. Same thing. Yeah, this was a bit of a weird tweet, but again, I can understand where she's coming from, and I'll talk about that later. If you lay down with MRAs, abusive ex-boyfriends, literal Nazis et al., you deserve fleas. I can't wait for the day when Zoe Quinn decides to turn 18 and start to say things that don't sound like they come from the mouth of a 5-year-old, but I know that day is way in the future. Because I mean, if you think that's bad, I'd love for you to hear what my family had to go through because of you people. You people?
Did you hear that, Marcus? He said you people. You people.
Who the hell is us people?
Reminder for the millionth time that I was accused of fucking someone for positive coverage that literally never existed for my free game. And you know what? I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, and this is why I'm kind of neutral on Gamergate. That free press coverage from Nathan Grayson never existed. Sure, he mentioned her game maybe a couple times in a list, but never really reviewed it or anything. Never gave it really positive coverage, only mentioned its existence. So I guess that counts as positive coverage? I mean, the stuff about sleeping with contest judges, that's still kind of out in the open. 3 years and people still are mad about shit that never happened and still spraying sex conspiracy theories. I fucking wrote for Kotaku in the past. Yeah, which might have some collusion. We're kind of emitting something there. I just realized that. I took a picture of this and I didn't realize that might be emitting some collusion if you're getting positive coverage from Kotaku without disclosing that you were once a writer for Kotaku. Now, here's the thing. I kind of used to like Zoe Quinn as a person. I would say that between her, Anais Sarkeesian, and Brianna Wu, the three big targets of Gamergate, she's probably the most likable. But then again, that's also saying that between Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and Gary Johnson, Hillary Clinton's the most likable. Because you know what? You're the lesser of three evils, but you still own slaves. I want to talk a little bit about Gamergate here and why I'm a bit neutral. You see, Gamergate, in my opinion, did start from a place of harassment. Now, I know that many people say that Zoe Quinn provoked Wizard Chan, and while I think that might have been the case, there's still some legitimate harassment that was thrown her way. Like, you realize that she can't have the whole time to fake thousands of death threats and rape threats and harassment and whatnot. You have to realize that some of that had to be legitimate. Now, some of her harassment was probably illegitimate, yeah, I'll give you that. I don't actually know how much of her harassment was faked and what wasn't. Only she, some of the harassers, and God know for sure. Isn't it right, Hasidic Jesus? Yes, my dad knows everything about this. It's your boy Jesus H. Christ here. And, my dad does know a lot about Zoe Quinn. And, he can confirm that, yes, she did stab a man in the face in 2007. Now, I don't want to cause an alarm by saying that she stabbed a man in the face in 2007. But, you know, God does see everything. And, he does want to just put it out there that she stabbed the man in the face in 2007. William? Thank you for that, Hasidic Jesus. I'm not Jewish. So that's why I'm saying that Gamergate did start from a place of harassment. It started with this jealous ex-boyfriend who was really mad that he was getting cucked, and so he decided to expose her cheating. But in order to make it more interesting and more of a story, he decided to make a bit of a loaded accusation that she did it for free press and good publicity, which is only half true. Even if she did sleep with Nathan Grayson, he's never published anything positive, like a positive review, only mentioned her stuff, as I mentioned before. Joshua Boggs and that sixth mistress, the one that's a female that actually is kind of a PR agent that might have some actual leverage in this situation. All of that, if it didn't have anything to do with the games, she'd be a shitty person, but it wouldn't have anything to do with ethics. Yeah, there was some legitimate harassment there. I do think that she profited off of that harassment, like, big time. And she also paved the way for many other terrible, terrible people to profit off of that harassment. And so the social justice movement boomed. And so we got terrible, horrible people such as Zoe Quinn, Arthur Chu, Anita Sarkeesian, Brianna Wu, Dan Olson, Jake Alley, Sarah Nyberg, and Kevin Bacon. But then came from Gamergate was people legitimately looking for ethics in gaming journalism. And yeah, there was that vocal minority that was basically the face of Gamergate, the people that were actually harassing people, your Ralph Retorts and whatnot, the people who were just spreading gossip and doxing information. And then you had people like maybe Mercedes Carrera, who was actually looking for ethics in gaming journalism, and she was also a feminist who was a bit tired of the way that feminists were getting away with a lot of shady shit, like Anise Sarkeesian, and Zoe Quinn, and Brianna Wu, and a lot of people. But Zoe Quinn kind of won this battle. Sure, Gawker got shut down, but the media always goes with women. It's just a fact. Most of the time. It's a shit sandwich on both sides and everyone has to take a bite. That's basically what it is. But in the case where she basically still pushes this narrative that all of Gamergate is harassment, I can kind of see where she's coming from. Yeah, maybe she poked the bear a little, and yeah, a lot of Gamergate was also a bit of a reaction to the Gamers Are Dead articles that were being pushed for the past 2 years. But at the same time, she was legitimately harassed, and so she probably does have this warped view about how ethics in journalism doesn't really matter because she was harassed. I think that her basically trying to say that Gamergate was all a bunch of hate mongers and MRAs and alt-right Nazis, it's understandable, honestly. Like, seeing someone support a movement that at one point was basically built around harassing her specifically, I can kind of understand where she's coming from here. I don't think that she's a well-rounded individual to realize that maybe some of these people were actually not trying to harass her, or maybe she's just traumatized like hell, but at the same time, I can kind of understand where she's coming from. And again, still think she's a terrible person, but I can understand. I'm not saying you should have killed her, but I understand. But for a little bit, let's just take a look at some of Tim Sorrett's tweets and see, where he was coming from. Tim Sorrett's tweets. Tim Sorrett. Is Vivian James a character we can use in a commercial project? Oh god. I'm already gonna assume I'm probably not gonna like this guy that much, but probably still defended by the end of this. Because, Zoe Quinn's pure evil. I've seen extreme cases where feminists would want artificial uterus to grow babies so they can keep working, drinking, smoking. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. The Gamergate people are for journalistic integrity, honest debate, transparency, inclusiveness, and egalitarianism. If Tim Sorre was a woman, you just know that Chris Clue would just be breaking out into laughter.
And when we're on the topic of doxing, again, Chris is glossing over the fact that Zoe Quinn doxed Mike Cernovich.
Let's hold on a second there, because you'll need to provide some facts on that one.
Well, that is actually our next topic. So let's
put that aside for a little bit.
Let me recontextualize now, because that is the next thing I want to get to, which is...
Hold on, David, though, there are some other things that I would like to bring up, since we are currently on the 8chan Baphomet topic. And one of those is that, Mercedes, you say you don't visit 8chan, you don't know...
Because Chris Clue's a misogynist. I don't agree. I'm against feminism because it's getting more and more skewed. I'm for egalitarianism. I don't care boy, girl, alien. What? I can understand where he's coming from here, because I think, especially during Gamergate, it was getting more and more skewed, the definition of feminism, especially with people using feminism for their own means, for their own shady means by that matter. And it was just becoming a bit of a shit show. So I can understand where he's coming from here. This and many other comments got him in a bit of trouble, and basically everyone was like, I'm not going to purchase that game. Oh, he's a Gamergater, and they're all hate mongers. Despite the fact that there was an FBI investigation of Gamergate that found no possible leads and was basically just filled with forced memes from 2008. Check that out. There was a lot of great reactions to this, some pretty good, some despicable, and let's go through a couple of them. Notch saw the "It's all of us or none of us" tweet by Zoe Quinn and went, "What a fucking cunt," and Zoe Quinn went, "God, I love making video games." Ha 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 ha. Notch actually keeps getting in trouble for saying the word cunt. I say it all the time, mostly in these videos, so I don't see any problem with it, and, you know, it kind of does describe Zoe Quinn a little bit. He actually even admitted, I don't have the tweet here, but that he didn't know it was Zoe Quinn, and he probably wouldn't have said it if he knew that it was Zoe Quinn. And his reason was because she keeps changing her name a lot, which is kind of true. This was one of the most just despicable tweets I saw. Some guy named Tom Hawking went, "Oh, so it's okay to call random women cunts for observing that Gamergate participants are fucking awful? You're a prize turd, Notch." And then someone named Jury X went, "I'm a woman and I'm all for that." Tom Hawking then went, "Cool story, woman." What? Tom Hawking, you're a cunt.
I am the one, the way your son don't need a gun to get respect up on the street.
There was a person by the name of Louis Gauthier who makes games for Ubisoft, said, "Well then I'm going to pirate and seed the shit out of The Last Night just so that dumbass gets no monies." Fuck you. How has Ubisoft not found this guy and told him to go fuck himself? Like, this is some terrible behavior. Why would you treat an indie dev like this? You're supposed to be camaraderie. You're supposed to have this sort of, like, you know, you're supposed to have each other's backs or something. Janet Garcia ran a poll saying, "Will you buy The Last Night now that you know Tim Soares is garbage?" One option was yes. The other three were all pretty much no. And she still got 86 for yes. It was just basically blown the fuck out. I kept retweeting this guy named Scallycap who basically summed it up the best. Tim Soares apologized for naive comments he made 3 years ago, live, while presenting The Last Night, and sadly people can't do forgiveness. Now this is true because he did go on stage during his E3 press conference and apologize for his tweets. I mean, I don't really have an opinion on that either way. I thought it was decent of him to do that, but he didn't really need to do it. Unfortunately, some people are so consumed with pain that they can't see what a huge gesture it is to admit past wrongdoings publicly. Which is true. I think that the pain has really overtaken Zoe Quinn, that she just can't see that maybe some people are just a bit either misguided or that they mean no harm to her. If you can't forgive someone who apologized in this moment of greatest visibility, then I don't know how one would even earn forgiveness. And this moment of greatest visibility is something I want to bring up because, you know, I would think that a lot of people would have brought up, especially Zoe Quinn, the fact that he was a Gamergater when he was making the game, you know, so that he has no chance in the industry because he's associated with Gamergate. Not when he's already at E3. Well, there's a reason for this. And that is, speaking of cyberpunk dystopias and famous people calling me a cunt, my memoir's info dump on making the internet suck less is out soon. She basically did this all to promote her book.
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
It's like a punchline. It's like, alright, so this guy calls me a cunt, and this other person enables my harassment. So I yell at someone who's speaking at E3, and another guy who made fucking Minecraft. I yell at them both, I cry about it for a little while, I say thank you for the sweet messages from a bunch of white knights who won't actually fuck me. And at the end of the day, I still get to promote my book that has only sold 200 copies for pre-order, despite me being a national news story. God bless America. Even someone named Makoto Nijima from the subreddit Kotaku in Action said, "This is why Zoe Quinn is so pissed. The situation is just schadenfreude for everyone else. Gamergate developers are getting E3 presentations, meanwhile she burned all her bridges with the gaming industry and will be infamous for the rest of her life because of a sex scandal." There you go. She's basically only known for sleeping with a bunch of people, allegedly. And while she didn't want to bring it up, she's basically made a career out of it, and now she's basically known for that one person who slept with some people and got a harassment campaign against her. Because Zoe Quinn's just making some Chuck Tingle game in bumfuck Canada, and Tim Sauray is a person who supported Gamergate, but still made it all the way to E3. I'm guessing she's a bit jealous, and probably had this on backup. She probably wanted to make sure that in his greatest moment, she could attack. Now, I'm not going to that conspiracy shit, except I just did. Either way, a lot of people are calling him a garbage person, but you realize that he was actually one of the people who was supporting ethics of gaming journalism. Yeah, sure, he didn't like Anais Sarkeesian, but he wasn't one of those garbage people in Gamergate who was doxing personal information or saying a bunch of sexist, misogynistic shit, right? Gamergate is not about harassment. Sure, there's a sanction of it that is about harassment, but the real Gamergaters are for journalistic integrity, which is something that's being lost a lot these days due to clickbait media and fake news. Honestly, Gamergate, despite defeating Gawker, is kind of lost. And that's actually a bad thing. Somewhat. Here's some more Tim Sauray tweets. The entire work of Anais Sarkeesian consists of saying video games are making you sexist. From her video, ironically, those who strongly believe that video games are harmless entertainment are also the ones most likely to internalize harmful media messages. The more you think you cannot be affected, the more likely you are to be affected. This is as toxic and idiotic as conservatives saying video game violence makes you violent in real life. I agree with that. Anais Sarkeesian is very much a fear-mongering person and doesn't really know anything about video games. Like, except for the fact that there's a woman in there and no matter what, she's not satisfied. Another person named Tormuk Giant Labe says, "It's pretty terrifying how quickly and unreservedly they dehumanize him. Garbage person is thrown around a bit. His work is dismissed not just out of hand, but in spite of immense initial interest. Not only do people say they won't buy or play his game, but many are criticizing Microsoft for publishing him. If his game really is about a progressive dystopia, holy shit, did he just get a majorly frightening validation." And this is because some people have said that in some of his tweets he was talking about feminism and how that might play a big role in The Last Night, where it's a world where the egalitarians lost and feminism won, and so it's a bit more of a PC society. And nobody knows if that's actually going to be in the game, but if it is, yeah, that's a bit chilling. But either way, Tim Sauray apologized for it at E3. Again, I don't really know if that mattered or not. He seems to have apologized for it in the past, too, like on some forums and whatnot. The company that represents him saying that they don't think that his views represent the company, and they are very much for feminism. And they also say that the tweets don't reflect Tim Sauray as a person. I'm guessing Zoe Quinn's probably still going to bitch about it for the next couple days. I can already guess that Brianna Wu's just getting her AK-47 is about to gun down E3 or something. But either way, what the fuck? I don't care about E3, and yet this shit happens. And I suddenly have to care about E3 again. This is bullshit. I hate this. I don't like this. Yeah, there's some shitty people on both sides. Tim Sauray said some kind of problematic stuff. Zoe Quinn said some kind of problematic stuff and basically baited a bunch of people to buy her shitty faked memoir. And Notch got involved and still walked away with millions of fuck you money dollars. It's just a bunch of Twitter bullshit, and honestly it's honestly just a bunch of people trying to dig up stuff, hold it back, and then when the guy's at his best moment, just use it against him. It's honestly quite pathetic and honestly a bit dehumanizing. And I think that's one thing that people don't know a lot about nowadays, is that they don't know that people are fucking human. And so they decide to dehumanize anyone who doesn't fit their worldview. And you know what? He doesn't fit my worldview, but at the same time, I don't give a fuck. He has his own opinions. Zoe Quinn, however, is a person who doesn't get that. But what are you gonna do? It's Zoe Quinn. She's traumatized, but also a bit crazy, even without the trauma. And she also probably is a scam artist. Before I go to work, I just wanted to read what garbage person, alt-right misogynist Nazi Tim Sauray said about the Gamergate tweets back in 2014 when he made them. This was on a forum I don't know what the name was, but whatever. Hello everybody. First, thanks for posting my game. I registered to clarify my position, which is very clear and moderate by the way. I am for a better representation of women in video games. I want more female characters written to be interesting and less cliche, but I also want more female developers in the industry. We are 6 in our team. These talents came to us since more than a year. Among them, in the hundreds of emails from people that want to work on our game, no woman at all. I have no idea why, so yes, I want to change. As many gamers, I absolutely adored playing Ellie in The Last of Us, or Clementine in Walking Dead, or Ripley in Alien Isolation, and the boss is my favorite character in all of the Metal Gear Solid saga. It proves that video games are not as terrible as I've been reading lately. However, I deeply agree that we need more characters like that, and I think gamers, contrary to what is told in medias these days, are really happy to play with some fascinating characters. I don't know anyone that was angry to play Ellie just because she was a girl. Just like critics, I'm bored as hell to see the sexy elf armor syndrome, to see Kerrigan being sexualized in StarCraft, and this kind of terrible art direction. I make games partly because I want to create something different and avoid cliches. Our main character in The Last Night is bisexual, and our other long-term project, Behind Nowhere, features a 15 years old, strong, independent girl that grew up by herself. I think I'm definitely taking a step in the right direction to offer more diversity to gamers. However, I think Sarkeesian is cherry-picking and painting the whole video game culture to something very negative, which, as a gamer since I'm 4, hello Echo the Dolphin in Flashback, I can't accept. Video games have been incredibly diverse to me, playing all kinds of animals and characters in all kinds of countries and imaginary worlds. I've killed 10 times more aliens, Nazi soldiers, and innocent male characters than women in video games. So when I see Sarkeesian saying video game culture is tainted with violence against women, I say no. Video game culture is tainted with violence towards everyone. And just like gamers used to deflect conservative when they told violence in video games makes you violent in real life, sexism in video games do not make you sexist in real life. This is a gross assumption, and this is why I disagree with her conclusions, while I totally agree on some parts of her work. Oh, and also when I read that Eco is sexist, I just can't accept any more stuff from her. I think she's toxic, and she's spreading conflict instead of encouraging change. That is my opinion, and you have the right to disagree and like her work. I also don't buy the patriarchy stuff. Maybe it applies in the USA, but I live in Paris, and here in France, virility is not encouraged at all. Sensitive men and intelligence are a lot more appreciated than being a tough guy in muscles. Most masculine behaviors are totally prohibited and are considered very macho here. When I saw the 14 articles the exact same day on several websites to say gamers are over or gamers are dead, I couldn't accept it. I can't accept to see medias and journalists on Twitter paint gamers as misogynistic, white trash, neckbeard, while we are a very diverse culture, with gamers from all countries of the world, all sex, all age. I really can't see how medias can make such generalization from the terrible actions of a few irrational people. I am, of course, against any form of harassment. I've been harassed quite a lot lately myself. Personally, I'm interested in the actual work of artists, not their personal opinions. Otherwise, I would miss so many classic movies, books, and music, just because I disagree with the artist. If you like our game, which is very progressive, you shouldn't change your mind because I have a different opinion than yours. I hope you understand my position better, and you can see I'm not the terrible human being you might have thought. I go back to work now. See you soon for those who are still interested. I like them. Oh, and Zoe Quinn, if you're watching this, recommend to Amy Pascal Adele Exarchopoulos for you in the Control-Alt-Delete movie, as well as Anne Hathaway as Annie Sarkeesian. Okay, you gotta go work. Bye!